Assalamu alaikum. I'm a Chicago kid, and I've been in different parts of this country, and our generations and our family here in Chicago, there are four, 1956 to 2022 in just a couple of days. Alhamdulillah. This is our American Muslim story for my family. All of us have one. Our goal moving forward is now to own our stories and to make our stories so integrated, so much a part of the greater American story that we are a part of it and there's no room for us to be the other. There's no room for us to be the other because we are 100% a part of it. At your seats, and we are passing around the American Muslim story. I'd love you to take a look at it. Is anyone surprised at some of the numbers, names, and information on this paper? Most American Muslims ourselves don't know our story in America. We don't know. It's over 400 years old. We don't know that millions of enslaved Africans helped build everything from the White House to the roads on our streets. We often don't even know who makes up American Muslims. I've shown this to governors, presidential candidates, and local officials. They look at this and they say, I had no idea that African Americans were the largest population of Muslims in America. And I say, yeah, some of us Muslims don't know that either. So this is our story. We need to own it. We need to learn it. And we need to make sure every single one of our neighbors, friends, and public officials know it as well. And that's civic justice, right? That's civic engagement. That's the work we do when we engage in our communities and we are a part of our communities. It's the story. But then you're like, okay, this is great. I tell my story, I meet people, I tell my story. What do we do together to make sure that story is completely integrated? And it's actually not rocket science. We count, we vote, we advocate. 3 things. And we do it not just for Muslims. We do it because it's the right thing to do for everyone. We do it because every prophet of Allah, Nabis and Rasuls, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, did it for their communities. They were civic justice advocates. They knew their community, they advocated for their community, and whatever system of civic existed, whether it was vote or mushawara or whatever, they participated in it. So I'll break down count, vote, and advocate. Count, that's data. Whether it's the census that happens every 10 years, and we just finished the decennial census in 2020, we count. And we let our officials, our community, our government, and ourselves know we are here. How many of you completed the census? I'm preaching to the choir because why are you in this room? Because you get this. You're drinking from the Kool-Aid just like we all are up here. But we also count ourselves. The data on us must be known, it must be collected, and it must be shared to tell our story, right? How many of you are from Illinois? Right now, you should go on illinoismuslims.org. We are holding the first ever survey of Illinois Muslims. Illinois has the largest per capita Muslim population in the nation. Yeah, I know, some of you from other states are like, really? And guess what? When you think of Michigan, a very large state of Muslims, can I ask you something? What race or ethnicities do you think of? Yep, the Arab community, and they're doing excellent in building that story in Michigan. When you think of Texas, South Asian businessmen and women and doctors. When you think of New Jersey, many new immigrants, often refugees, etc. When you think of Illinois, and when you look at Illinois, we have everybody. We have the African American community that came up from the Great Migration in the 1920s. They're all over the south side of Chicago, the west sides of Chicago, and the suburbs. Come for some great Creole and soul food. You'll see the mix of African American culture, Muslim culture, South Asian cultures. We have Arabs, we have South Asians, we have Latinos in Illinois. And so again, count ourselves, tell our story, collect the data. When we collect this data, we were thinking, oh, it's a very expensive study. We're gonna have to fund it. In 6 months, we raised $250,000. Vast majority from businesses, corporations, philanthropic foundations that don't identify as Muslim. Why? They want to know us. They want to know our needs. They want to know our challenges. They want to know our successes. They want to know, which our preliminary data is showing us, 90% of Muslims in Illinois give charity of over $1,000 a year. They want to know that 50% of them give charity of over $5,000 a year. Charities want that our sadaqah come to their communities as well. They want to know that we vote. 80% of Muslims in Illinois, according preliminary data again, are registered to vote. We have to make sure 80% turn out to vote. And so this is the data. Count ourselves, own our data. Don't let someone else count us. Don't let someone else own our data. We talk about our communities being safe, secure for our own people. We should count and own our own data. So I said count, vote, advocate. The second part, vote. Everyone's in here because you vote, because you know the importance of this. But everyone in here needs to get everyone you know to vote as well. And what you need to tell them is not just vote, but why we vote. We vote for ethical leaders of any background and every background, and we vote for just laws and policies. Many times I'll have people say, I voted. I'm not sure who I voted for, but I voted. It's a start. Let's get there. But right away, the next step has to be, how do we identify public officials that have been supporting our communities? Public officials who have been voting so that our masjids can be zoned in. Public officials who have been coming to the community not just 3 months before Election Day, but 8 months after Election Day. So they are the ethical leaders who will look at our data about ourselves, who will want to learn our story, and who will then make sure that just laws and policies are ones that they're supporting. So vote, but we're voting for a reason. We're voting for ethical leaders, and we are voting so some of those ethical leaders look like us. And that, again, is redistricting, and the idea that you're voting for redistricting rights as well. And so count, vote, and last, very, very important, advocate. Again, when we're in a climate crisis, that's not a Muslim issue. That's not an American issue. It is all our issue. This morning, I got a campaign call, and I was like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must have been like realizing I was gonna come speak on this. And he called, and he said, hi, I'm Eric. I'm a scientist, and I'm running for Congress in Illinois 17th. I want to have the endorsement of your organization. And I said, great. And he said, what do you care about? Because I want to tell you how I'm gonna support it. And I didn't hesitate. I said, you're a scientist? I care about the tornadoes that are ripping through the Midwest now more than they ever have before. You're a scientist? I care that it's Chicago in the middle of a winter And we're looking at 30s, 50s, 50-degree weather on some of these days. I care about then the science of healthcare, because how many of us have been grounded over this last week because of COVID? When our conferences could have thousands more people, but people are afraid to travel, that impacts all of us. That's healthcare, that's access, that's COVID response, that's vaccinations. I can't go to a Walgreens or a CVS now and get a home healthcare kit. They're sold out. That's an issue with our government, creating more of these kits so that we can be taken care of. So again, advocate for the issues. In Illinois in 2021, we passed 6 laws sponsored by Muslim organizations. Alhamdulillah, takbir. 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 Of course, they're because of God's grace, but they're also because thousands of Illinois Muslims picked up the phone and put out witness slips. They're because in Michigan, people called us and said, we're done with our elections, what do you need? They're because we're all working together to make sure good ethical laws impact all of us. And on the sheet, I have our laws. Take a look at those laws. We're getting calls from all over the state saying, which laws did you pass? Here are the laws we passed in Michigan. You passed those in Illinois, and we'll pass the laws from Illinois and Michigan. Which laws did you pass in California? Let's learn from California and how they passed those laws. One of our resolutions is January 17th, 2022. How many of you know what that date is? Muhammad Ali's birthday. Illinois is the first state to make Muhammad Ali's birthday a commemorative holiday. The champ, America's champ, who happens to also have been a devout Muslim, a philanthropist who was a Muslim, and someone who unashamedly followed the courage and had the courage to follow Muslim ideals, opposing Vietnam War, supporting civil rights for all, and many, many more things. So this idea of advocacy is not a Muslim idea, it's just the right idea. What we advocate for can be strategically and very carefully laws that everybody needs and everybody wants. If you read the blurb under each law, do you know who supported the athletic attire law? Evangelical Christian moms who didn't want their daughters wearing bikinis on the volleyball court. Jewish parents who wanted their son or themselves in college to be able to wear the yarmulke while they were playing sports. So these laws, written in a way that is inclusive, means Muslims are fighting for everyone. So tell the American Muslim story. Tell it for everybody, not just American Muslims. And tell it by counting, voting, and advocating for who we are and what our ideals are. Think about a law you want passed. Talk to your local Muslim civic organization. Minnesota has one. Michigan has one. Utah Muslim Civic League run by Luna Benari. Excellent organization. Virginia has several. Illinois has them. Every state that has a significant Muslim population has people working in these spaces. There will be great challenges. We got nothing out of redistricting this year in Illinois, not a single district. But Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, they all didn't play the short game. They played the long game, right? We still attended 35 hearings and testified about redistricting. How many did we get? 0. We'll wait till 2030. Because between now and 2030, we're talking to every legislator who voted against us to let them know we know they voted against us. And for those who sponsored our bills into law, we're making sure they get reelected. And for those who are telling our story when they meet other people, we're making sure that we build even stronger relationships. So there's a strategy to the work we're doing, huge challenges to the work we're doing, but we're Americans. We have 400 years of history in this nation. We're not here for the short haul. We're here for the long game, for all Americans, inshallah. Thank you so much for being here.
Jazakumullahu khairan. So we don't actually have a lot of time for questions because we ran out of time, but I will ask this. The first question and the last question that we received are very similar. The first question was, if you're holding a public office, how do you handle the growing LGBT movement without compromising your Islamic principles? And the last question we got was, how do we handle the dilemma that those closest to advocate for Muslim needs are also the most liberal who have LGBTQ and liberal agenda?
I drew the shorter end of the stick. We were like doing rock, paper, scissors, and who had to answer the question. I spent 15 years as a public school teacher. I taught 5th grade. I taught 8th grade. And then I taught at the university level. Through my classrooms, in the seats in my classroom, in the schools that I taught, and in the universities that I was a faculty member for, there was every kind of student, every kind of family. When they were with me, they got the best possible education that I could provide. I was never a better teacher for someone who was straight rather than someone who was gay. I was never a worse teacher because someone wasn't married and living with someone else. What we can do is what our Creator and our Prophet modeled for us, which is ensure every single person's human rights, every single person's civil rights, and every single person's dignity is never compromised under our watch. That's our core values. It's not about being Democrat. It's not about being Republican, progressive, liberal, conservative. You can label me whatever you want to label me, but I will follow the core values of my faith. I ran for office. I came in second in a race of 4 people, in a race where my opponent was actually supported by the Democratic Party, where I was supported by a progressively Democratic stance. And I had that stance for the LGBTQ leaders who supported me. I had that stance for the abortion leaders that supported me, because I said to them, I will never let your rights be denied. And I will not work to change laws that allow your rights to be denied. Now, there was an LGBTQ community and PAC that did not support me because their endorsement questionnaire asked me to support those of LGBTQ community. No problem, I said yes. Protect those of LGBTQ and transgender community. No problem, I said yes. Promote LGBTQ values and walk in the Gay Pride Parade every year. I said no, thank you. I didn't get their endorsement. I was told later that I didn't win because I didn't support the gay community. The person who won the race was gay. They have a lot of money. They have a growing power in our community. I support and protect all rights, but I also hold to my core values. And so, will that mean we don't get every public office we vie for? Yes, it may. Is that okay with us? Yes, it is. We will work in other ways to continue to be advocates for all communities, all children, all families, all adults. But there are some things we won't compromise. My husband is a physician. 20 years, never gave better care to someone who was straight versus someone who was gay. Never gave worse care to someone because they'd had an abortion before. Never. He worked ethically and he worked in his profession in a stellar manner. Teacher, worked ethically, worked to the best of my profession. How many of you are engineers? How many of you are lawyers? How many of you are in finance? Will you support and help everyone who walks in through the door have the best professional care that they can because you're there at the other end of the side of the table? Yes. But are there limits to what you will do for anybody? Absolutely. Even if a Muslim brother or sister came to me and asked me to support a stance that I felt was an un-Islamic, or for me, an ethically wrong stance, I would say, I'm sorry, brother. I appreciate your stance. I'm trying to understand your stance, but right now I can't support it. And so that's what we have to do. When we keep moving the line for ourselves, dangerous territory. But when we keep it focused on human rights, civil rights, and the dignity that everyone deserves, the line is clear. It's not an easy line. Doesn't mean you will win, but it will be clear in your head, it will be clear in your heart, and it will be clear on the day you stand in front of your Lord on the day of judgment.